Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, the average house price is now 10 times the average yearly income. Getting on the housing ladder is an impossible dream, while rising rents are a miserable reality for millions. The answer, at least 250,000 new homes a year, according to ministers. Launching the long-delayed white paper, the Community Secretary Sajid Javid told MPs there was a need for more affordable housing. It's from our business correspondent, Hilya Ibrahimi.
The housing market is broken. Today, even the government admitted that. The question is whether their white paper is just painting over the cracks.
I've got to be honest with people. We can't just flick a switch and make housing affordable overnight. For 30 years, as a country, under governments of all colours, we've not built enough homes. And fundamentally, the only solution to fixing the market is to build more homes so that housing becomes more affordable, whether you're trying to rent or buy. So what would be easy for you is if there was one single silver bullet I could produce out as a rabbit out of the hat and say that's going to solve the problem. I think if such a thing existed, one of my predecessors over the last 30 years would have found it.
There's actually a lot in this white paper. But if you look at the detail, none of it stacks up to face up to the scale of the housing crisis in this country. Skeptics in the industry say a lot of the measures are just rehashed policies, while some of the government's ideas could cause as many problems as they solve. More than a decade ago, the former Bank of England economist Kate Barker suggested around 250,000 new homes a year would need to be built to meet population demands. That never happened, and today the government distanced itself from even its more modest ambition of 200,000 homes. For Barker, a disappointing turn of events.
So the good thing in this housing white paper is I think it pushes policy forward helpfully in a number of small ways. The bad thing in it is there's nothing really big about the future. There's nothing about where should we really put new towns. If you were thinking about the long term, you'd be saying London. How do we get the councils around London to work with the transport providers to think where can we put really new towns with really good transport links? That takes years in the planning. Just saying let's wait for local authorities to come forward hasn't worked over the past 5 years or so. I see no reason why it's going to work in the future.
Too short-term and too political. Even within the same parties, governments rarely stick with the same goals. Labour was all about national planning before the coalition and Eric Pickles introduced localism. Today that was overturned again. Another shift from the David Cameron years is that Number 10 has now opened its arms to housing associations, marking a change to the love-in with big house builders.
I think we do have a government that understands that there is a pressing need to build more homes and they want to get on and do it. I'm not sure that the measures themselves are strong enough to be able to deliver, but what we really need is political will. You know, the great British public now say we want new, ordinary, affordable homes in our area, and I don't think the politicians have caught up with that yet. What we need at a local level and at a national level is political leadership that says this is priority objective number one. We want a thriving economy in a post-Brexit world. You cannot do it unless you have the housing stock that we need.
This is a property which is a new build.
Azad Assam is a small house builder who says the current system doesn't work. Many of today's proposals are directed at getting more companies like his to compete effectively with their larger rivals.
It's good that the government's actually come clean and actually said it is broken, because it's the first time a housing minister or somebody in a position like that to actually admit the truth. And if you look across Europe, you will see that a lot of the properties are actually built by small builders like myself. So you have a lot of self-builds. Austria is about 80%. The average in Europe is approximately 65 to 70% of people build their own homes. In the UK, it's 11%. So you have to ask the question, why is that? And the main reason why is because there's no incentives. The planning process is extremely complicated and frustrating for small builders like myself, and you also don't have the tax breaks that you have in Europe.
While Azad and housing associations might be pleased with today's measures, there are many things conspicuously absent from the paper, like borrowing freedoms for local councils. But the main ingredient missing is a big vision for how to fix the housing market, rather than just making good surface issues.
I've been getting